Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Morning, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. How you doing? You rocking and rolling after that fantastic Monday night football game? Not really. Yeah, it wasn't really that great, was it? We'll talk about the Monday night football game here on the show in a few moments. Remember that this show is Fantasy Sports Daily. I am Ray Flowers. I'm with you Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Wednesdays. I'm with Jeff Mans. What is this Jeff Mans? Who is this Jeff Mans person? Jeff Mans is on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Monday through Friday from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm with Jeff on Wednesdays, which is why I'm not here. But don't worry, this show is still here. We're here Monday through Friday. We go about an hour each day, starting at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The guy is Justin Fensterman on Wednesday. So he often is visited by Rich Miletto. So they are here the one day that I'm not here because I'm over with Jeff. So you listen to us for about an hour. You take an hour break. You go over to FantasyGuru.com, mess around in the chat rooms, read some articles, kind of float around, maybe grab a sandwich or something. And then you tune into SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio for 3 hours for Jeff's show. Again, you can follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all of those places at The Ray Flowers. Behind the scenes, writing baseball, getting ready for 2026. In front of the scenes, doing this show with you, writing articles. Going to have the matchup article posted on Thursday, as always, Thursday morning, right before this show starts. Next week, just to put it out there, what's the exact days of the week? I should have looked at this before we got started. I'll remind everybody before we actually do this. Probably we'll have a show we'll have a show Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, we'll probably have a show. I'll have to talk to Justin Fensterman to verify that. There will be no show on Christmas. So on Thursday, there'll be no show. We'll be back on Friday. So maybe 4 days a week next week. I'll talk to Justin, figure that out. Probably 4 days next week. But we'll get some clarity on that here before we move forward with everything else. What are we doing today? We'll talk in that Monday Night Football game. We'll get to it in a second. We're going to talk some early storylines for Week 16. We have some clarity at the quarterback positions. We have a lot of uncertainty at the wide receiver position. Odunze, Ricky Pearsall, George Pickens, Davante Adams, Drake London. Lots to talk about there, so we'll do so. Armando Marsal will join us because it is a Tuesday, and we're back on that normal schedule. Armando will join us today. We'll talk the waiver wire with him. Stroud, Cousins, Michael Carter. Is he a thing all of a sudden? He had 20 touches last week, or 18, whatever it was. JCM, Audric, Estime, Evan Hull with the Saints. Malik Davis. Is Javonte Williams okay? It's early in the week. Jayden Reed, Matthew Golden, Adonai Mitchell, Troy Franklin, Coleston, Loveland, Theo Johnson, and Darren Waller, who we will talk about in a second. Don't forget to go to FG. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. Any questions? I want to add this to a package I already have. I want to change this. What is this actually all about? Support@fantasyguru.com, or just click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up for any packages. Right now, the football package, the rest of the season, includes everything but the Super Bowl betting guide, everything we do besides Super Bowl betting guide, for all college football and all the NFL, for all of our DFS coverage, all of our betting coverage, and all of our seasonal coverage. Everything football. Articles, live streams, podcasts, chat rooms, rankings, all of it $49.99 the rest of the way. Okay. We also have, and I'll throw it up on the screen there, the all-in MVP plan. That's what we just talked about. How about we throw out the MVP plan? There's the right one. The MVP plan, which is basically everything but football and baseball that we do. And you say to yourself, well, guys, what do you do besides those two sports? They're great. I'd like to check it out. Well, you click the subscribe tab in the top right corner, get signed up for the MVP plan for basketball, hockey, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, soccer, horse racing, on and on and on. We got a lot of things we cover besides the big two. So check that out. Sign up for the MVP plan right now over at fantasyguru.com. And then, as always, you can watch the show 3 different ways, live or on demand. YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Twitter X @FantasyGuru site, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. In those places, again, you can watch live or on demand, leave comments, questions, all that kind of good stuff. Like Fantasy Arnold said, yo. Ethan said, hey. Angela said, yo. Like, you can do stuff like that. You can also ask questions and stuff that we'll address throughout the show. And then the 2 main ways you can listen to the podcast, just go to FG, click the Elite Plus tab. There's a toolbar at the top of the page. Click the Elite Plus tab there. You can listen to the podcast, the old shows. There you can also find Mind of Marsal, Armando Marsal's podcast. He'll be on in a bit here. Find his podcast there, as well as Justin Fensterman's, Jeff Mann's, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can always just type in Fantasy Sports Daily, whether you're listening on YouTube Music, Spotify, Pandora, Apple iTunes. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily, and you should be able to find us there. All right, last night, the Steelers defeated the Dolphins 28-15. The Steelers improved to 8-6. Dolphins fall to 6-8. What do we get the takeaways here? Let's go start with the Dolphins side of things. The major takeaway here is the Dolphins offense is bankrupt. I think we all kind of know that. You look at Tua Tagovailoa, 253-2, and you think, oh, yeah, okay, cool. They had minus 19 yards in the third quarter as a team. The entire offense happened in the fourth quarter when the Steelers were up 28-3, and they basically went into prevent defense. So even the numbers we're going to talk about here with the Dolphins mean nothing because they were getting stomped out by the Steelers. Stomped out. It was 28-3. The game was over. Davante had 12 attempts on the ground for 60 yards. He had 6 catches for 67 yards. That's 13 PPR points. That's another 6 points there on the ground. He's had, I think his low game, he's had one game this year under 16 PPR points, Davante. Extremely consistent week to week. He had 18 touches. They had like 41 handoffs, receptions. I mean, so 28 there. Let's see, 4, 16, 42. 42 offensive touches. He had 18 of them. We worry about Christian McCaffrey. I mean, that's 40+% of the touches from HN. He looked fine. For those people that were concerned, glad you didn't need to be. He played through the injury, all that kind of stuff. He was fine. We do have to watch the ankle of Ollie Gordon, who was tweaked. He only played a handful of snaps before getting injured. Jalen Wright played a handful of snaps, but this is what, we talked about this a lot last week. Everyone was trying to get right, and even people that didn't have Devon Achane were trying to, why? Devon Achane was always going to play this game on Monday Night Football. He is the only game in town, as we said here directly on the show. These other guys, doesn't matter at all. If Achane's playing, you're not using him, so who cares? Now it looks like with Gordon tweaking his ankle again, it further cements Jalen Wright being the backup that you want if you have Devon Achane. Of course, if someone else added Wright, that's the game we're playing now as we're in the fantasy playoffs. Tua again threw for 253-2. Again, all of it in the fourth quarter. You'll look and you'll see Darren Waller having this huge game, 7 catches, 66 yards, and 2 scores, and think, booyah! 6 catches and 2 of the touchdowns, both of them, came in the fourth quarter when the game was over, when they went to prevent defense. He had 1 catch for 3.5 quarters. 3 quarters. He didn't do anything, wasn't part of the offense, nothing happening. We'll talk about Armando Marsal, about Darren Waller. He does face the Bengals, the worst defense in the history of the world against the tight end. Didn't give up anything to Andrews and Likely because the Ravens only threw the ball 12 times. Does that change things for Waller this week? Again, all of his production, 6 of his catches and both touchdowns were in the fourth quarter. And that's really it. Malik Washington caught a pass. Jalen Waddle caught 2 balls for 26 yards. He's been neutered. I think that's 4 consecutive games for Waddle where he's under 55 yards. This is just and give them credit for bouncing back and fighting hard and winning some football games here. But they fell to 6-8. They're out of the playoff mix, all that kind of stuff. And this offense is just broken. I mean, they desperately miss Tyreek Hill. They haven't been able to figure any of this out. I really still struggle with why Malik Washington catches 1, 2, 3 passes for 28 yards a week. But anyway, that's what it was, and it's not good for the Dolphins. On the other side of things, Angelo, feel bad for you there. Angelo left Mr. Gainwell on the bench. Kenneth Gainwell ran 13 times for 80 yards. He also caught 7 passes for 46 yards. That is 4 of 5 games that Kenneth Gainwell has caught 6 passes. He's not Devon Achane, but 4 or 5 games with 6 catches, 13 carries, 12 carries, 7 catches, 6. Jalen Warren obviously had the health issue. We were worried about him playing through an illness. He played and was fine. Actually played a good amount of the snaps last night. Let's pull it up. I think he actually played more than Gainwell, if I'm not remembering that correctly. No, Gainwell played 4 more snaps and ran 1 more route. So it was basically a 50-50 split there. Gainwell did have a couple of extra touches, 20. Warren saw 15. Warren just didn't do anything. And Warren really has become a guy who's touching the ball 13 to 17 times a game and doing nothing, so he better get a touchdown. I think he has 3 scores in 4 games, so, there's been some of that. But Gainwell, is he the number one guy to use here in the next couple of weeks? I think it's hard to make an argument. The answer is no. Kenneth Gainwell, big game last night again, 7 catches. Aaron Rodgers completed 23 of 27 passes, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, played a very good game. But let's be very clear about this. Be very straight and clear. We can be honest with each other on the show, right? That's what we do here. The Steelers, who moved to 8-6, are still in the playoff hunt, are going absolutely nowhere. We all know that, right? Even if they make the playoffs, they're not winning, right? This offense is broken. And I don't know. I will say it one of 2 ways. Either Arthur Smith is a moron, which a lot of people are in that camp, or Arthur Smith is making do with a crappy group of skill players. You can make that argument too. Now, I will say, for those of you that haven't seen it, you probably know everything. So we got Kenneth Gainwell going nuts here. We've got Jaylen Warren, who this team has wanted to be their lead. Everyone in fantasy has wanted to be the lead running back for 4 years for the Steelers. They got him going. They got Kenneth Gainwell ripping off, plays. He's averaging 88 scrimmage yards like the last month, playing very well. So what do? They give the ball to their tight ends. They became the first team in NFL history, the Steelers did, to have 2 different tight ends score rushing touchdown in the same game. Connor Hayward has had 9 carries. He's a tight end. He's had 9 carries since his last reception. He's the tight end. He had 4 carries last night for 4 yards and a touchdown. They ran 87 tush pushes. It's amazing he only had 4 carries. So Connor Hayward rushing touchdown. Johnny Smith rushing touchdown. Johnny Smith can't catch 3 passes a week, but here he's got the rushing score. So first time in history, 2 tight ends, 2 separate ones, scored a rushing touchdown in the same game. You pay running backs to be running backs and tight ends to be tight ends. Why are we having players not do what they're paid to do? Well, Ray, Connor Hayward and Darnell Washington, these guys are 50 pounds heavier than, yeah, okay, cool. Is all it is to be a running back is to be heavy? Think about this. Do you want coaches have success by putting players in positions to succeed? Are we asking our running backs to play tight ends? No. Why are we asking our tight ends to play running back? Well, they outweigh him by 50 pounds. If you can't get 1 yard with your running back, your offense is broken anyway. If your whole thing is a gimmick, here's a 275-pound running tight end, your offense is broken. You got Gainwell averaging 6.2 yards a carry. You got Warren, who's been through a lot of battles with your team, and your answer is to give the ball to your tight ends. Not just that. Last night, 6 targets to wide receivers. 6 targets to wide receivers by Aaron Rodgers. 10 targets to running backs. 11 targets to tight ends. You tell me. 6 targets to wide receivers, 10 to running backs, 11 to tight ends. I don't know. I don't get it. Rubby17 said left Gainwell in the listener league going on to the finals in Ted Schuster. Oh, Rubby, congratulations. I'm glad going to the finals. Yeah, all right. Make it happen, kid. Good luck there. I see a question here from Sean. Sean, we don't do stardom sit-ins here until Wednesday. There's no reason for it. You're not picking any of these guys up off the waiver wire. So yeah, rankings are up over at fantasyguru.com if you have to have an answer. We should never be setting lineups on a Tuesday morning. Should never actually be setting lineups on a Wednesday morning. Should never be setting lineups even on a Thursday morning unless your team is playing on Thursday. So we got the Rams and the Seahawks on Thursday. You shouldn't, especially in the fantasy playoffs. There's only most leagues 4 teams left. There's not a huge waiver wire push. We'll talk waiver wires in a few minutes with Armando anyway. There is absolutely no reason to be setting a lineup on a Tuesday morning. It's just not. We don't have that information. We don't know how things are going to go. We don't know the health of too many situations across the land. Not trying to be obnoxious or be a jackass. I want to give you the right answer. And the only way I can give you the right answer is to have the right information. And at 9:15 West Coast time on a Tuesday morning, we don't have that information, number one. And number two, I got a question yesterday or Sunday night, actually, about starting a quarterback this week. And it's like, guys, gals, I want to give you the right answer. I can't give you the right answer unless I've had time to analyze the situation. It's Tuesday morning. It's 9:00. And I got up at 6 a.m. to walk my dog this morning, and I've done some work before the show today, sure, but it's 9 a.m. Like we need more time to break it down. If you want, again, the early rankings are up at fantasyguru.com. If you got to have an answer, but there's no way that we've broken all this stuff down in time to give answers on the Tuesday. And again, we shouldn't be doing it for anyone before Friday afternoon, really, as we've talked about a lot. Before Friday afternoon, unless you have players on Thursday. So anyway, let's talk some of the storylines here in the NFL. Jayden Daniels has been shut down. We'll talk to Armando Marsal in about 10, 15 minutes. We'll do that waiver wire talk with him. Jayden Daniels has been shut down. And look, there has been concern, and we've talked about this just to reiterate. Jayden Daniels had a special season last year. He was on a ton of my teams this season. He was the least expensive, quote unquote, elite quarterback. So I ended up with him in a lot of leagues. Not the reason all my teams didn't do well this year, but the teams that did best this year didn't have Jayden Daniels. There's been concerns about whether or not he can withstand the pounding of an NFL game given his size. He and I are almost exactly the same size, so I root for him for that reason too. But he just doesn't. He looks like it's like me. I'm 6'3", 185, 6'3 and a half. Used to be 6'4 before I shrunk, 185. We're not made to be out there getting smashed by massive football players. And there were 3 separate injuries for Jayden Daniels this year. We talked about the injury that knocked him finally out when he fell after he got pushed on his elbow. Like, it wasn't even a hit. Like, I don't know. We'll have a lot of time to break this down over the offseason, but it's really tough to feel that good about Jayden Daniels because this year was just a mess multiple times, and it plays into the concerns we have about his physical nature and stature in the NFL. Marcus Mariota will continue to be the quarterback for the Commanders the rest of the way. He's going to go for 210 yards and a touchdown and run for 40 yards. Kind of been doing that every week he's been starting, right? Nothing exciting or sexy, but playable, especially in the super flex and 2 quarterback leagues. Phillip Rivers is going to be the quarterback again for the Colts. Now we're hearing Anthony Richardson, we're getting some positive vibes from him coming back from his eye injury. So there's still a chance that Richardson or Leonard actually throws passes the rest of the way for the Colts. There's absolutely a chance that happens. But Phillip Rivers, who was passably effective, who put his team, as we talked about here on the show yesterday, in position to win the game, will be the quarterback again this week for the Colts, and then we'll see. Obviously, it's all dump-offs. Amir Abdullah got involved, and everything was underneath, and, okay. So we have to downgrade everyone on this offense realistically, besides Jonathan Taylor. But at least we know who the quarterback is going to be, and unfortunately, that does ding pretty much every skill player on the Colts team. We talked about Ricky Pearsall yesterday, and it's too early to see. I mean, the guy got shot last year, so it's too early to make grandiose calls here, but we're 2 years into this guy's NFL career, and he's literally been a disaster. And he's still been quite effective around the disaster-ishness this season. I mean, he had a couple of 100-yard games to start the year. He had 96 yards the other day, on Sunday. Had the multiple injuries, knee, ankle. Yesterday, we got an update, and Kyle Shanahan said that there is concern about his health. Now, the Niners have gotten a lot of heat, especially from Jeff, gotten a lot of heat for not being honest about injuries. So when their head coach comes out and says we're concerned, we should be concerned. Because the Niners traditionally, and then the guy's out, right? Oh, yeah. Think about the Ricky Pearsall situation. How much longer was he out than we thought? We were told he was going to be out with a knee injury. How much longer Brandon Ayuk? So when the head coach comes out and says, we're concerned, there's a problem. Okay. So if you used Ricky Pearsall last week and you got the 696, good for you, but you got to be making other plans. Maybe he plays this week. We'll see. They play Monday night. So, is that right? They do play Monday night, right? They play against the Titans. Is that Monday Night Football? Am I losing my mind? No, they play the Colts. What am I saying? The Colts. Yeah, it is Monday Night Football. So Ricky Pearsall, unless we get definitive, he's in the lineup, you can't be planning to play Ricky Pearsall. We can't be waiting till Monday. There's no pivot with the Niners. It's on the waiver wire. It's Juwan Jennings and George Kittle or bust, if that's the case, right? So dynasty keeper leagues, I mean, you can't get anything for him. So I don't know, you're dropping him, moving on. It just doesn't do anything for you. But he had a serious opportunity to establish himself with the trade of Debo, with the injury to Brandon Ayuk, an opportunity to establish himself as the wide receiver's number one wide receiver. He can't even stay on the field. Distressing. Rome Odunze, this situation is, I don't know if distressing is the right word, but it's concerning. We've talked all about this. Obviously, Rome Odunze was supposed to play. Then he wasn't. Last minute, 5 minutes before game kickoff, they announced he wasn't going to play because he re-injured his foot in warmups. Ben Johnson said all options are on the table and they need to protect him from himself. So my read of that is that Rome Odunze wasn't really good enough to play in week 15. He said he was going to play in week 15 and tried to gut it out, and it didn't work. So now the Bears, who obviously are going to the playoffs and have aspiration, they need Rome Odunze. So now it's almost like, well, we're going to sit you down just to make sure you're okay. We know you're tough. We know you're trying, you're a gamer, all that kind of stuff, but you can't go right now. So it sounds like, here's the quote from Ben Johnson, the head coach of the Bears. There may be a case that we need to protect him from himself for a little bit so he can help us down the road, unquote. They're playing the Packers this week, and at this point in time, again, it's Tuesday morning. I'm not expecting Rome Odunze to play. And I don't think anyone should be expecting Rome Odunze to play. Luther Burden would be the guy who stepped up as he did last week, right? Well, he hurt his ankle late in that game, right? And Ben Johnson said that Luther Burden is being termed now day-to-day. So his availability, and they play Saturday. Remember, the schedule this week is different. I should have said that too. Thursday, we have 2 Saturday games, Sunday, Monday. The NFL doing it, so we're playing every day of the week thing for the holiday season with college football done. Burden is being called day-to-day, so we're going to have to watch the reports with him with an eagle eye too, because there's a chance that either Burden doesn't play or he's significantly limited. If that's the case, obviously Olamide Zaccheaus is the guy that we want to start paying attention to. The guy that saw run last week was Devin Duvernay, obviously an excellent returner, a guy who's never really found his footing as a wide receiver. But we could be looking at the Bears going up against the Packers with DJ Moore, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Devin Duvernay. That'd be rough. So we'll continue to watch the reports there with the Bears. They're hopeful, says Raheem Mostert, the Falcons head coach. They're hopeful that Drake London will play this week. Hey, we'll see. He's got the knee injury. We've talked about that on and on here. Not sure why they didn't put him on the injured reserve list. He's obviously missed 4 weeks. They should have done that. The Falcons blew it. Okay. There's a chance he could play week 16. If he's active, we're playing Drake London. I remember Kirk Cousins. We'll talk about Kirk Cousins in a few minutes here with Armando Marsal. Kirk Cousins played a good game last night, had those big numbers last time out, The Falcons desperately need London back because these other guys, Sills, Mooney, these other guys, they're support pieces. They can't be looked at to be the number one guy in terms of a wide receiver. As Angelo notes, Pitt owners are hoping London doesn't play. Even if London does play, I mean, it's London and Pitts, right, at this point. But you're right there, Angelo. 10 targets isn't likely to happen with London on the field. Not that 10 targets is likely to happen with him not on the field. We've seen it with Pitts, but that's still surprising. But yeah, we'll continue to follow this storyline. I think very hopeful. That's the first time we've heard a statement like that out of the Falcons. So maybe he does get a chance to play against the Cardinals this week. We'll see. So a little bit more on George Pickens. Pickens has got issues. If you have Pickens, you're still playing Pickens. Like we're not overreacting to the point where we're benching Pickens and all this kind of stuff. But it has to be pointed out that the last 2 games haven't just been unproductive. The last 2 games he's looked disinterested. And when you look at a 7-game run here of him having at least 75 yards in every one of those 7 games, averaging 7 catches for 112 yards over a 7-game period of time. 7 for 112. The last 2 games, he has 8 catches for 70 yards. Seemed disinterested, not running full speed, and this is the George Pickens experience. His season has been spectacular, and I hate to say it, but if he craps out down the stretch, it's still spectacular. He's got 80 catches, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, easily the best season of his career. But we need him now in the fantasy playoffs. You made the fantasy playoffs because of Pickens. We can't have more of this nonsense. So I'm sure everyone will talk to him this week, and we'll see what he's made out of. They face the Chargers. It's not an easy matchup. We know that the Chargers defense is a very strong group. If you look at the last 6 weeks here, where are the Chargers? Chargers against the wide receiver the last 6 weeks are the 6th fewest points allowed, only 2 touchdowns. Not an easy matchup, but we're still starting George Pickens. But it would be really nice to see and hear some positive stuff about him out of camp with the Cowboys. Davante Adams, he hurt his hamstring during the game. We saw it. He pulled up off the field. We know all that kind of stuff. Ian Rappaport says that status is in doubt. We had a report this morning from the team. I think it was their head coach. I think it was Sean McVay. Yeah, Sean McVay said could be a game time decision, not in the sense that, he's going to play, but it might be a game time decision. It's, we hope he can be a game time. He's not going to play this week against Seattle. That'd be my guess. The Rams are going to make the playoffs. They obviously want to beat Seattle and finish with a higher seeding, but they're going to make the playoffs. It's a short week here on Thursday. Thank you, NFL, for that. Maybe if they played Sunday, Adams could play, but that's not the way the schedule is. So Adams is almost certain to not play this week. Even if he does play this week, how do you use him in the playoffs? He could play 25 snaps and have 2 touchdowns from the 3-yard line. He could. We know what his role is in this offense with the Rams, but you need to be making other plans. You just have to be. I don't think he's going to play. And if he does play, he's limited and obviously at a huge risk of injury. Michael, just to reiterate a point I made earlier, we don't do start sit-ins until Wednesday. There's no reason to do start and sit-ins till Wednesday. We'll talk about your waiver question here in a bit with Armando Marsal. Bhayshul Tuten has a finger injury. He had surgery. He's going to miss the remainder of the year. So LaQuint Allen, if you have Travis Etienne, you want to add LaQuint Allen this week. For the average person out there, adding LaQuint Allen, whatever kind of thing. But if you have Etienne and you're still playing, you got to get LaQuint Allen because we saw 4 touchdowns obviously go receiving wise to the running back position last week. We'll see this team heavily involved, the offense heavily involved, running backs as it's been all year with their new coach. So add LaQuint Allen if you got the opportunity. And then finally, the Ravens offense. We're hearing Lamar Jackson said he feels better. I think Lamar Jackson's been listed. He's got 14 injuries. We'll see. He says he's better. We'll see if the offense, again, 12 pass attempts last week, 11 carries for Derrick Henry. They didn't need any of that because they won a football game against a completely outmanned Bengals club. The Ravens obviously trying to make the playoffs. They're playing at home against the Patriots. It's a very difficult matchup. The Patriots obviously were ahead 21-0 on Sunday and lost a game to the Bills 35-31. They're going to be out for blood to turn things around here. So it's not an easy matchup whatsoever for Baltimore. Very difficult matchup and basically a must-win game for them. Lamar Jackson said he's feeling better. We'll see if that's the case. Don't worry, Michael. We'll talk about your waiver wire question just to reiterate the point. The rankings are up at fantasyguru.com if you have to see them. There's no point to be setting lineups on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There's no point to be setting lineups at all before Friday afternoon unless you have players playing on Thursday night. There's just too much at stake. There's too much that needs to be addressed, too many health situations, all that kind of good stuff. But we'll get to your waiver wire question with Armando Marsal here in a couple of minutes, Michael. So stay around for that. Okay, so it is a Tuesday. And on Tuesdays, we usually talk to my man, Armando Marsal. We didn't last week, so we changed the schedule up. But we're going to go back to the norm this week. So we're going to bring in Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Remember, you can see this show on demand or listen to this show on demand. And listen to Armando's podcast, Mind of Marsal, on demand as well. Click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page over at fantasyguru.com, Elite Plus. And it brings up all the shows, Justin Fensterman show, this show, Jeff Mann's show, the Race Guru Thunder Hour show, and Armando Marsal show. He joins us every Tuesday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. So let's do this. Armando Marsal of FG. How you doing, Armando?
I'm doing good, Ray. I'm wondering how can I get one of those, those beers? I want some of those Ray beers. Can I get some?
You want some Ray beer?
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
That looks like a good beer there.
It's a really good beer. Yeah. I drank a 6-pack of Ray beers a couple years ago on Christmas to celebrate. Eloquist was the company that did it. I don't know if they went out of business or they keep doing it, but yeah. My lady sent a picture of me in and I became Santa Claus. So there it is.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, right? That was not a gift I was anticipating. Pretty cool. Santa Mans is the thing we got over at FG. It should be Santa Ray because there we go. Plus, I did play Santa Claus in a school production, as I talked about on the show the other day. How you doing? How things been since we talked to you last?
Good. Things are good. A good weekend of DFS. I was NBA last night with a pretty good night in NBA as well. So been good here over at Fantasy Guru. The Discord has been good. And fantasy playoffs. I mean, I did lose in my home league. So my postseason run in my home league is officially over, unfortunately. But you know what? We keep trucking. We keep moving on, Ray. We keep moving on.
We do. At least that's what we try to do here on the show and at FG and all that kind of good stuff. We'll talk more about people's questions and comments later before we talk waiver wire with you, though. I saw this comment, and I just want to get your thoughts on it quickly because it's a little off what we're going to be talking to individual players. AA Ron says, how bad is this league? We play a 2-week playoff, so round 1 is 2 weeks and the championship is 2 weeks. So basically it's sounds like 2 rounds of playoffs, each of them 2 weeks. He says it's so bad. And he's pissed about to me, I have no problem with that. I mean, again, you want to remove variance and you want the better team to win. Doesn't having 2 matchups when you had Justin Jefferson do nothing, or you had Rome Odunze in your lineup. I mean, I like the idea of 2 weeks. Usually I say 2-week finals, but I'm okay with 2-week semifinals too. What about you?
Yeah, I've never seen a 2-week semifinal. I was actually going to suggest like a 2-week final. I've always liked the idea, especially when the leagues would cut off the week before the final week. It's like, all right, let's play the last 2 weeks, and play it out. I'm not against this format either. I'm going to safely assume that it's the top 4 teams that make it. So like that way, you kind of reduce variance, right? You're talking about possibly the top 4 teams in the league facing each other here in the postseason, making it count. So yeah, I'm not against it at all. And if you're in a league where you're opposed to that, I like the idea, like you said, a 2-week final. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Would you start the finals or the playoffs earlier, or would you like the finals to be week 17 and 18?
I would do week 17 and 18 minutes. I don't mind it. If you want to reduce that, week 18 variance for some of these teams, I think this year you're going to see a lot of variance for some of these teams because there's teams that are already ruled out of the playoffs. So you can see some teams, not play their guys in the last week of the season. Maybe, but I'm okay with going all the way to week 18.
Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Armando, let's talk some waiver wire guys again. There shouldn't be heavy bidding here, right? There's only a couple of teams left and all that in the majority of leagues. And, I've argued, and we've seen yet again the last couple of weeks why I have argued for team quarterbacks in all leagues, because these guys can't play 17 games anymore. CJ Stroud, Kirk Cousins, both guys coming off good games. If you had to choose one or the other, is there a standout here? Does the news with London potentially being back for Cousins make you feel good? Are both of them still QB2s, so it doesn't really matter for most people? What do you think?
Yeah, so both of them for me are still QB2s. I think CJ Stroud, I view him like a maybe top 15 quarterback, where he has that QB1 upside. Really good matchup for me here against the Raiders. But, we just have to ask ourselves, how much does he have to throw in this game? I think Houston dominates in this contest. Raiders just look like a really bad football team right now. So if in a 2-quarterback league, you're starting him, right? In a single quarterback league, I think at this stage of the of the season, it really depends on your options and who you have. Have you been streaming? What have you been doing at the position? If you have one of your guys, I don't think one of the top 10 guys, I don't think you need to get cute here. With CJ Stroud in a good matchup, coming off a really good game. He finished QB7 last week, but how often has he done that this year? Not much, right? So he's a good NFL quarterback. He hasn't been producing high-end numbers for fantasy standpoint. I think he's playing good football right now, but that doesn't always translate to high-end fantasy production. And I just don't see this being a game environment where he has to throw a ton. So outside of 2-quarterback or super flex leagues, or if you're in a situation in a 1-quarterback league where you need someone to a quarterback, sure. But I view him as a QB 15 with QB1 upside.
Yeah, I have him in a super flex league. He's not been that guy very much. You're right.
No, he is not.
He is not. He's been a disappointment overall, but rounding into form as the team does as well as they make that playoff push. Michael's asking a start-sit question. I told him we don't do start-sit-in questions, but he's asked a question here about Michael Carter, who I want to ask you about, Armando. Looks like Bam Knight could be done for the season. I don't think we've officially got that announcement yet. Amari DiMercato came back from injury and didn't see the field, which was surprising because before the injury, DiMercato was averaging like 90 yards from scrimmage for 2 or 3 games before he got hurt. Michael Carter goes out, has 18 touches. So who is Michael Carter? Number one, are you excited about starting him this week? Is he a flex option, that kind of thing? Two, are you concerned about DeMarcado taking a larger piece of the pie this week with another week away from injury? And three, Michael asked about blocking an opponent who needs a running back. Seems like that'd be a good move to make with Michael Carter, given the state of what teams in the playoffs should have in the backfield.
Yeah. So, all right. So there's a couple of things we have to unpack here, right? Like, so you mentioned it. DeMarcado wasn't that involved. I have the numbers here. He played 7 of the 66 potential offensive snaps last week, right? 4 total opportunities. Michael Carter, 53 of the 6, not percent, 53 of the 66 snaps, 18 total opportunities. I do think we'll see DeMarcado a little bit more involved this week. I still view Michael Carter as, a RB3/flex option here with RB2 upside, really, because if you get that kind of usage here, he can get that done. So for me, I would definitely be ahead of him. Like at this point, you don't want a running back like that out there. You don't want your opponents to be able to have a running back that's getting, upwards of 15 opportunities, potential opportunities here. So I would definitely block out my opponents in this instance. And I still view him as a depth piece, right? You never know what kind of situation you're going to find yourself at the end of this week after practice reports or next week, in the finals. So I think at this point, the more running back depth you have, the better it is. I would cut, maybe a wide receiver 5, a backup tight end, a backup quarterback. I really don't know because you're only listing running backs. Ideally, you could keep all of these running backs, Michael. I'm not necessarily going to start Carter here, with these running backs. You have 2 running backs, so Kyron Williams, Brown. I guess we really would depend on news here, right? We got to keep an eye on Woody Mark news. We got to keep an eye on like certain situations here. But Michael Carter might make this lineup at the end of the week after all of the injury reports here. So definitely be adding him. Even if you're not starting him, would be adding him.
Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Chris Rodriguez was in a smash spot last week. He didn't play. We said on the show, look, it's still a smash spot. I'd rather have Rodriguez out there than JCM, but if you got Bill, hard not to use him as a flex option against the Giants. And he went out there and ran for 96 yards and a touchdown, and here we go. Okay. We don't know if Rodriguez is going to play this week or not. We know that people chase production. We know the matchup this week is not as good as it was last week when it was against the Giants. So what level of interest do we have in JCM? Is there any level of interest this week?
Not much. Like this is one of those where I rather, right? Like Michael Carter, I want him on my roster right now. JCM, I'm like, you know what? I'll leave him out there and let my opponent get him. Let my opponent fall into that trap of chasing last week's production. This is going to be a far tougher matchup against the Eagles. I think it's going to be a very different game environment, very different game script too. If Rodriguez returns, like I'm out on Bill. Outside of emergency situations, right? Really depends on your situation. If you're in an emergency situation, sure, add him. But if you're not, and you don't need if you don't need, this is not. I would let my opponent get Bill this week. That's what I would do, right?
I said this, I don't know, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago. I don't remember recently. I said, look, Alvin Kamara is down. Devin Neal, cool. If Devin Neal goes down, I'm not doing Estime and Hole. I'm just not like, no, I'm not. We don't know if Neal's going to play or not, but he obviously barely played last week, left the game after scoring a touchdown. You said no. So Estime and Hole, you're not in either.
Right. Look, Estime, 25 snaps. Hall, 22 snaps, 4 opportunities for 1, 6 opportunities for. I don't want to be invested in this at all. I really hope Neal plays because, I don't mind Neal. Like if he plays, I don't mind playing Neal. Outside of that, this is another one of those situations where I'm going to let my opponent fall into that trap and I'm staying away from it. And if it bites me, it bites me. Like if I lose because my opponent started Hall against me, so be it. Right. I'm glad you started Hall against me. So be it. That's just the way I view it. There's just too much uncertainty here. Not an offense that I expect is going to lean on one or the other. Let's not forget they could utilize Hill too. We've seen them go to that approach. Mm-hmm. Like I'm out.
Mono Marsal of fantasyguru.com. One more running back. Javonte Williams, if you just watched the box score, he had 15 carries, 90 yards, touchdown. Hey, we're cool. He had 15 touches on like 20 snaps, which is insane, right? He's not 100% healthy. He was out of the game. He probably plays the next game for the Cowboys, probably. But is it Malik Davis or is it Jayden Blue? Like, do we care in this scenario, or is another one of these scenarios where, hey, if Javonte Williams is out, we just don't know?
No, I mean, you can, in deeper leagues, I don't hate the idea of adding Davis, but it has to be very deep leagues. Like in 10, 12 team leagues, you're probably not going to consider him, right? Like with the backfield that we just saw with Michael, like I'm not even thinking about Davis because he's not going to be in front of any of the guys I have there for me. Right. So it really depends on your, the depth of your league, your running back situation. I don't expect him to go out there and carve out the Javonte Williams role. Like that I don't expect. So I'm not in shallow leagues. I'm okay in deeper leagues.
How amazing would it be if it became Jayden Blue? And he went Jerome Harrison. Remember Jerome Harrison years ago?
My goodness.
3 weeks.
My goodness. That would be great.
That would be amazing. Jerome Harrison ran for like 500 yards or something like that in 3 weeks years ago for the Browns. People can go look that up.
Armando, definitely help my best ball teams.
Oh, yeah. A little bit. Packers wide receivers, we talk about it all the time. Okay. Christian Watson tried to catch that ball, landed on his shoulder. They're saying it's a chest injury, which I guess is probably, it was a shoulder. Now, like maybe it was, it was a shoulder. He fell on it, tried to catch, like it was a football play. Like, and it's another reminder of all the skills, and he just can't stay on the football field. So we don't know if he's going to play or not. He hasn't officially been ruled out yet. Jayden Reed might still be on the waiver wire. We talked about Jayden Reed last week. Again, in this Packers offense, like Jayden Reed could be their lead receiver and catch 4 balls for 39 yards. So what are we doing with Jayden Reed? I know if he's on the waiver wire, sure, right, pick him up kind of thing. But like, what are we doing with this offense? Is it just more of the same?
Well, since returning, he's seen at least 6 opportunities, right? In his first game, 4 targets, 2 rush attempts. Last week, he had 6 targets. I think he gives you a decent floor operating as a slot receiver there in a PPR setting. I think if you're looking for somewhat of a floor, 8 to 10 points in PPR scoring, that's what I mean by floor. I'm not talking about 15-point floor. So if you're looking for that, I think he's fine. And he does also have upside. Like, it's not like he doesn't have upside. I think he's going to continue that same role. But this is, you mentioned this is a ball that's like, this is a team that spreads the ball. And I have the numbers from last week. So 36 targets were spread out, right? You got Romeo Dobbs had 3, Reed had 6, Wicks had 2, Watson 5 before the injury, Golden had 3. And you look at Fitzpatrick, the tight end, 5, Musgrave, the tight end, 6. Like, they spread the ball here. This is not new. This is what we've seen all, pretty much all year round, like even going back to previous seasons. So I think if you're getting anywhere between 5 and 7 opportunities on a week-to-week basis from Reed, I think that's a fair number to have in mind, and I think he could do well with those opportunities. So I think he's like a good flex option in PPR scoring settings, like maybe wide receiver 3/flex option with upside.
His teammate Matthew Golden, in theory, would take over the role of Watson that he had early in the year before Watson returned. Less interest in him than Reed. Reed would be your preference over Golden? Yeah,
because I think there's going to be far more volatility when it comes to Golden, and it's going to be more of a boom or bust. And in head-to-head, I rather have a little bit more stability, especially at this stage of the season.
New York Jets added a couple of receivers. They had 2 injuries, all that kind of stuff. There's still theoretically a chance Garrett Wilson plays this season. Not going to happen this week. No. Adonai Mitchell. He's basically done exactly what his profile says he was going to do. 2 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown, 1 catch, 7 catches and a touchdown. He's gone 6 points, 24 points, 3 points, 20 points. And again, he's one of these big hitting players, right? He's in that Deshaun Jackson mold where he's a deep threat, and he'll get behind a defense, and your quarterback hits him, it's a touchdown. If not, facing the Saints, who have played much better football of late. It is indoors, so there won't be an issue. They're playing in Saint Land. Cook will be the quarterback this week, it looks like. Don't know for certain, but it looks like. Are we starting him in the playoffs? To me, he's just the type of player that makes me so nervous, and that offense is just not very good.
Oh, Ray, it depends on the level of how much you risk like how much risk tolerance you have. Like that really is what it is, because he is exactly that. He is as volatile as they come. And I think I wrote this in the recap article 2 weeks ago. And if you're investing in AD Mitchell, you have to understand, yes, he's gonna get opportunities. Yes, there's big upside, but there's also a lot of downside. There's a low floor, right? So for me, yeah, he checks off boxes, but he's a high variance, wide receiver 3/flex option for me here. Like I don't like to take on that kind of risk, if we're being honest. I'd rather just do it in DFS, and not do it with my season long. I'll do it in DFS where if he pays off, you're winning a lot of money, and just keep a safer floor in my weekly lineup. But I understand there's going to be situations where you're going to have to, right? And I think the opportunities have been there, like you mentioned. He's playing the snap share. He's getting the opportunities. He had over a 20% target share in 2 of his last 3 games. So, we're seeing the opportunities there. There's a team that we expect to be, chasing points more often than not. Favorable matchup, like you mentioned. So there's a case to be made for sure. But it's a high variance play no matter what way you look at it.
Marsal of fantasyguru.com joins us for about a half hour every Tuesday, starting at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Troy Franklin, I jokingly said yesterday on the show, we cracked the code. It's something we talked about here on the show. Pat Bryant overtook him. He's the first 2 games back from the bye week, more snaps, more routes, more targets, more receptions, everything. He didn't play last week. Well, look at that. Troy Franklin, he's back in our lives. Now, Bo Nix played a great game, 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Franklin had a very productive game, which he's done this season, though he only played 63% of the snaps, something like that. Mm-hmm. He wasn't on the field a ton. Level, is it as simple as, well, Bryant's back, we're out on Franklin? Is it matchup based with Franklin? Is it who cares? I don't want to start him because of that variance that you're just talking about, even though he's a little bit different than Adonai Mitchell. Where are we at with Troy Franklin?
So Troy Franklin was someone I was very bullish on earlier on the season, and I was recommending a lot. Now I'm kind of, you mentioned the number that is very important. He played under 70% of the snaps once again. That number to me is crucial, especially that Bryant was out. I would have liked for him to play upwards of that 70 mark that we're used to seeing him play. And the fact that he played with 62% of the snaps, to me, that's very concerning. I'm not going to take the risk because I do think it's going to be more volatile, more variance than what we saw earlier in the season. I think for whatever reason, his role has diminished here in this offense. I think what we expected, Sean Payton to do with the running backs, I kind of think we're seeing that with the receivers, where he's kind of shuffling that around a little bit. So for me, I think once Pat Bryant returns, he's going to continue with that role that he was carving out, and that's going to lower Franklin's production and opportunities even more. So I'm not going to chase this weekend's production when it comes to or usage when it comes to Franklin. I'm going to look at that number, that 62% snap share, and to me, that's the red flag, and it's enough for me to stay away.
At the tight end position, a couple of names here, Armando. Coleston, Loveland, 3-4 catches, 45 yards, random touchdown kind of thing. Luther Burden's beat up. Rome Odunze may not play. A little bit more interest of Loveland sitting out there on the waiver wire.
Yeah, I think, you're looking, for me, I'm looking at, top 15 tight end with tight end 1 upside. Like, that's how I'm going to view him. I think he's going to get anywhere between that 4 to 6 target a week number. I think that's a good number for a tight end. I think there's going to be a pretty decent floor for him, and we've seen pretty good upside as well. So in display, this is a team that's been running the football a lot, right? Like, that's the thing. They've been running the football and very efficiently too. So I think that'll open up some play action for Loveland as well. So yeah, I think there's opportunity to have, if you've been streaming the position, right? Or if you have someone like a Juwan Johnson, where I think pivoting to someone like Loveland is absolutely okay, and something I'd be encouraging people to do right now.
Speaking of Juwan Johnson, Tyrone Force got Juwan Johnson, but Kyle Pitts and Kobe Parkinson are on the waiver wire. Now, as Angela points out, Higbee theoretically could return this week. I don't think he will, but his window can be open. He could return this week. Pitts may have to deal with Drake London, which we talked about earlier in the show. We don't know for certain here. Juwan Johnson's been fine. He's been fine. 4 catches, 45 yards every week. He's fine. The other 2 guys are more intriguing and certainly have touchdown equity in the case of Parkinson. We making a move here with Juwan Johnson?
I would do it for Pitts. I think I would do it for Pitts. Things have changed here. Like, I know London has been up, but we also have Kirk Cousins in the center. We know he's going to give him a couple of extra looks there. Yeah, I'm okay with doing this for Pitts. All of these guys they're not that far apart in my opinion. I think Johnson's the worst of the bunch, but I like Parkinson a lot too. Like, my thing with Parkinson, Adams, I don't expect he's week to week, so I don't expect he's going to play.
Right.
Even if Higbee returns, I don't know how quickly they're going to rush him out there to play a boatload of snaps. Parkinson's been very efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Pitts here, but you can make a case for both of these guys. But yes, I would drop Johnson for Pitts. And what I would do is I would set the priority of Johnson for Pitts and then Johnson for Parkinson, whichever one goes through, and then hopefully you get one.
Yeah, I think we have Pitts right now in the early rankings at FG, 11 spots ahead of Johnson this week. And again, things are changing that we've discussed, but I agree with Armando. I think it's a move to make. I think Parkinson, by the way, has 6 touchdowns in 6 games, something like that, 5 and 6 games.
He has scored a touchdown in 5 of his last 6 games. He has a total of 6 touchdowns in that span. Yes.
Yeah. And I read on PFF that they ran 46 plays out of 13 personnel on the weekend. 13 personnel is 3 tight ends on the field. Yeah. They've actually run 40 plays 2 weeks in a row. So for each of the last 2 weeks, they set an all-time record in history of the tracking of this. Of the most plays with 3 tight ends on the field, they had 42 2 weeks ago, and then last week had 46. And with Davante Adams out potentially or likely, it's not going down. So they're 3 tight end crazy there. They're kind of like the Steelers, except they do it well.
Yes.
What about Theo Johnson? Let me read Theo Johnson's yardage marks here his last 6 games. 27, 75, 36, 77, 29, 72. 5 of those 6 games, he's caught exactly 3 passes. So it's either 3 catches for 38 yards or 3 catches for 70 yards. Facing Minnesota this week, it's not a matchup that I see, and think greatness. Let's go. Any interest here with Theo Johnson, or would a name like Coleston Loveland be higher priority for you?
I like Theo Johnson, but not over Loveland. Not this week, like you mentioned, not the matchup. There's another tight end where you and I are going to talk about right after that. I prefer as well over Theo Johnson. For me, Theo Johnson is one of those guys I've recommended, and maybe in a 16-team league, or when you're in those situations where it's very thin. I think there's, like you mentioned, he's been a top 12 tight end in 3 of his last 5 games, but then he's finished outside of the top 20 in 2 of those games, right? So he's very high variance. That's what you're going to get from Theo Johnson, but not over Loveland. I prefer Loveland. If I'm prioritizing the 2, it's going to be Loveland over Theo Johnson for me.
Armando, that guy you wanted to talk about, the guy I want to talk about, the guy in your home state there, that guy is Darren Waller. Now, Darren Waller, as we talked about earlier today, 7 catches, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns, huge game. Woohoo! Didn't do anything until the game was 28-3 and over. He had 1 catch. It was 28-3. The game was over. The Steelers said, we're just going to run the clock out. You guys do it. So nothing real happened for Waller yesterday. When the Steelers were actually trying, he had 1 catch. But he got in the end zone twice. He is clearly the red zone threat as a pass catcher for this team. Clearly. He's not a big reception guy most of the time. He's not a big yardage guy most of the time. He's averaged 40 yards since he's come back from injury. He's always injured. But here come the Bengals. Now, the Bengals shut down the Ravens. They didn't shut them down. But the tight ends didn't do anything against the Bengals. But we can't forget the Bengals are historically bad against the tight end. If Darren Waller's on the waiver wire, are we spending all of our fab to get him for this matchup in Week 16?
This really depends on your tight end situation, but I do think that you can view Darren Waller as a top 12 tight end this week, given the matchup. You mentioned they did good against Baltimore Ravens tight ends last week, right? Sure. Despite a good game, I'm going to read you some numbers, Ray.
Okay.
They still have allowed the most targets. They still have allowed the most receptions. They still have allowed the most receiving yards by 300 yards, by the way. All right. They still have allowed the most receiving touchdowns by 5, and they're giving up the most fantasy points by 6, or a little bit under 6, 5.8 or something like that, but 6 if you round up to the position. No, they're really bad defensively, and you mentioned it. I think the Bengals are going to be able to score on Miami, right? So I expect Miami to have to chase kind of the same situation. I'm expecting a similar game script here for Miami. And because of that, I think Waller's very much in play. And like you mentioned, like if we're talking long term, no, I don't want to be invested in
Right.
Waller long term. This is a 1 week rental. Like I'm viewing it as this week right here. I'm trying to win this week, week 16. I'm trying to advance to the next round of the playoffs. I'll figure out week 17 and week 17.
Right.
But this week, Waller's in a phenomenal position against the worst defense against tight ends. It's like it's no question. They've just allowed so much production, and this is not a good unit. I like Waller a lot this week.
Mark Andrews had 18 yards on Sunday. 18 yards against the Bengals. The last 5 games, the Bengals have still allowed 554 yards to tight ends.
Yes, it's bad.
And they're averaging like 140 yards. If you take last week out, they're averaging like 140 yards a week to the tight end. Like it's unfathomably bad. It's just horrendous. Peg City dude. I still have to play Justin Jefferson, right? What do you think, Armando? I say yes. And I went on a rant yesterday. They cannot, as I said yesterday, go into next season with J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback of this football team, with it going like this. They cannot have an entire offseason with everyone talking about this, the players talking about this, Justin Jefferson being pissed off. They got to figure this out right now, immediately. They can't go into the offseason with the plan for McCarthy to be the quarterback and have it end the way it is right now with Jefferson. I'm still starting him. What say you?
8 targets last week, 33% target share. Yeah, I'm going to start him. Like, understand the production is not what you expected it to be, but I'm going to ride or die with Jefferson the rest of the way. Like the opportunities were there last week. It's not like they weren't. He was just not. They're not great looks all the time, and it wasn't efficiency, but that's okay. I'm going to continue to roll with him. You know,
Angel's got a question here. There is no debate about which wide receiver with the Panthers has more talent. There's no debate. It's Tedero McMillan. The last 2 weeks, Coker's had 4 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. The last couple of weeks, Tedero McMillan receding. Angelo said he thinks he prefers Coker over Tedero McMillan. I can't. Would you?
Nope, I cannot. It's just McMillan has been. It's been a pretty good season for McMillan, in my opinion, given the circumstances, given the quarterback situation there. Like I think he's done okay. Like I think he's had a pretty solid rookie season. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to let these last couple of weeks and games dictate, and change my view. I would continue to start McMillan over Coker myself. Like if I have both on my roster, I'm starting McMillan over Coker myself.
Amazon Pancakes, great handle. Amazon Pancakes has had Seattle. Wondering, the rest of the way, you look at Seattle, they've got the Rams this week. Not a great matchup, but Adams, could miss the game, but still not a great matchup. In week 17, they face Carolina. I have no fear of playing a defense against Carolina whatsoever. And then the Niners, if you're still playing in week 18. So the question really becomes like, what do you do? Some people, Seattle's defense is good. Like they're really good, right? And maybe you've been using Seattle all year long and you're really tied to Seattle, but they're facing the Rams this week. Like, am I tied to a defense? I'm not. I don't like defense. I'm in one league that still uses defense. Let's just put it out there. No one should be using team defense. It's a terrible, antiquated, horribly guesstimating number for what a defense is going to do. So it's a bad setup. Don't use defense next year. But I have no problem switching to the defense. And if you look at Buffalo, who's mentioned here, they face the Browns. Now, they face the Eagles in week 17, so you're going to want to go back to Seattle if you're still playing in this matchup here. But you kind of said it earlier with the tight end. You're kind of going week to week. Are you doing the same thing with team defense?
Yeah, so look, I view both of these defenses right here that are listed as top 10 defenses, right? So in my opinion, both very startable in a 10-team league, even more so in a 12-team league. But like you mentioned, the Bills against Cleveland, they have to be viewed as a top 3, top 4 defense this week. I think they're in a very good spot, obviously a much better spot than Seattle. I have nothing against dropping Seattle and picking up Buffalo at this stage and figuring out week 17 in week 17, right? You're probably not going to get Seattle back because someone might stash a second defense. I'm not a person that likes to stash 2 defenses. But if they are there, you can go ahead and put a waiver wire claim or dump all of your fab that's remaining on them at that point, especially if that's your championship weekend. So I would be okay with starting Seattle, but I'm not against dropping Seattle to pick up the Bills. I have the Bills ranked ahead of Seattle this week.
Amazon Pancakes also ask, and just to say it for the third time on the show now, we don't do stardom sit-ems before Wednesday here on the show. You should not do any stardom sit-ems at all for any scenario, all of them, until Friday night, unless your teams are playing on Thursday. And Armando is going to say the same thing, correct?
100%. I have a template in my documents that I have for the chat to remind everyone, there's no need to be making, especially when and I'm not saying in this instance, but especially when there's news tied to the question, right? Like there's someone that is not practicing on Thursday, but their game is on Sunday. Friday's practice report is so important. Like that could dictate a limited practice is usually a positive sign, right? Whereas a no practice is like a really, red flag. And you kind of can dictate a little bit more from that. You don't get certainty, but at least you have more information. I think the more information you have, the better decision you can always make. I always say that.
And remember, too, we focus on offense, but there's all the hurt players on defense,
Correct.
too.
Offensive lines.
Makes a huge difference. So Amazon Pancakes, you can check the rankings out over at fantasyguru.com. The early rankings are available, but you shouldn't be doing it until Friday afternoon at the very earliest. And Michael, by the way, says, thank you, Mr. Flowers and Mr. Marsala. Marsala.
I often get Mr. Marsala or Marshall. Marshall. Sometimes okay. Hey, Marshall, Mr. Okay. Marshall. I'm like, huh? Where's the H?
Mathers? Yeah. He said thank you for answering his question earlier about Michael Carter. You're welcome, Michael. Yeah, thanks for sticking around. Of course, you're welcome. That. You can see it on the screen here. For those of you that don't know, and you should know by now if you've been watching the show, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Get signed up. It's $49.99 for the rest of the season for the football product. Everything but the Super Bowl betting guide. That gets you DFS, seasonal, and betting for college football and the NFL. All of it. Chat rooms, articles, live streams, podcasts, rankings, all of it. $49.99. And then Armando, we have gift cards. And if people sign up for the gift card, and you can find this information in the description below, especially on YouTube, we'll give you free cash. So you could give the gift card to somebody else and keep the free cash for yourself if you want. Or buy a gift card for yourself and keep all of it. But we give you bonus money on top of it.
Look at that. You can even, and then you include it with the 6-pack, Ray. You get a raised 6-pack with that gift card. That's what you do.
You don't, because that would be way more expensive than the gift
card.
No,
you add it to your cart. You have to add it
to you don't need a Jeff Mann's Christmas Santa Man t-shirt. We need some Ray Flowers beer. That's right.
Why not get them all?
I can do that
why not get them all, Ray?
Get a Fantasy Guru t-shirt like Armando has. Get all of them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's old school right here.
It is old school. I kind of like that. And you can see on the screen there, fantasyguru.com/join-today. And then also fantasyguru.com, fantasyguru.selfie.store if you want to get logged in there to find our swag. We do have some swag. We don't push it much. There is no beer there. Sorry. But we do have some stuff there. Armando, you can find his podcast, Mine and Marsal, by clicking that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can find this show as well. What are you doing next week? You're doing the same old this week. Next week is a mess with the schedule and NFL playing on Christmas. How have you looked at your schedule? Is it drastically changing in terms of when you're posting stuff next week, or is it too early to have that information?
Yeah, I'm going to be pushing most of the content, back or not back. I'm sorry, forward. So like I'll do it earlier in the week.
Okay.
What I can, then other things maybe later in the week. But I haven't decided what's going to be moved around. It really depends on what's available and stuff like that for me. But I don't see much change. I'll definitely be in Discord, answering. I know that I'll try to be there as much as possible in the morning. No promises, but I'll try to get a couple questions answered in there and things like that. But definitely, the night before, I'll hang around and see if I can get some questions answered. Focus on that. I think this is it's going to be a lot of games. Obviously, the week is spread out differently, so there's going to be decisions. So we'll be around. But I haven't sorted out my schedule just yet, Ray.
I wish I didn't have to. Such a mess. The NFL, I get it. It's such a mess. Like, come on, man. Like they just
it's not easy.
It's not easy. But we'll be there for you, folks, over at fantasyguru.com. The articles will be up. The information will be there. We'll be in chat rooms, all that kind of good stuff. We'll do the show as we talked about. I think we'll have it 4 days a week, just not on Christmas next week. We'll get an update later in the week with the official word on that as well. But we want to thank Armando, who will be with us next Tuesday, who joins us every Tuesday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Armando, thanks for your time today, all the positivity, the good vibes, the information, and we'll talk to you a week from now.
Thanks so much for having me on. Good luck to everyone this week. Crush your playoffs.
You got it. And we'll help you do that. Remember, through the playoffs, all the way, all the playoffs, all that kind of stuff. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up. $49.99 for all the football coverage, college pros. The rest of the way besides the NFL Super Bowl betting guide. Everything else, one low price, betting, seasonal, wagering, Armando and Marsal available to help you in all those areas as well. For Armando, I'm Ray. It's been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. Have a great day, everybody.